Park Ti-woo sat alone on his apartment rooftop. The night sky above Seoul was full of stars and the slow-moving lights of alien spacecraft. It was the year 2157, and humanity had met dozens of alien species. But most aliens stayed away from Earth. They said humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too strange. Ti-woo did not care about aliens tonight. He cared about the empty soju bottle in his hand and the dating app on his phone that showed 0 new matches. He was 28 years old. He worked 12 hours a day at a company that barely knew his name. His apartment was small and messy. His mother called every week to ask about grandchildren. All his friends were married now. They sent him photos of their bobbies and their happy dinners, and Ti-woo smiled and said congratulations while eating instant noodles alone. Tonight, his last hope had failed. A woman named Yoon Jae-young had agreed to meet him for coffee. She seemed nice in her messages. But when he arrived at the cafe, she took one look at him and said she had made a mistake. She left before he could even say hello. So now Ti-woo sat on his rooftop, drunk and tired and very, very lonely. He stood up slowly. The city spread out below him, millions of lights from millions of homes where millions of people were not alone. Above him, the alien ships moved like lazy fish through a dark ocean. Ti-woo spread his arms wide and shouted at the sky. "Is there anyone in this whole damn universe who wants to marry me?" His voice echoed across the rooftop. A few birds flew away in surprise. An alien cruise ship continued its slow path overhead, uncaring. Ti-woo laughed at himself. What a stupid thing to do. What a pathetic man he was, yelling at the stars like a crazy person. He finished his soju, threw the bottle in the recycling bin, and stumbled back to his apartment. He fell asleep on his couch with the television still playing. 3 days passed. On the third day, something fell from the sky. It was a Tuesday morning. Ti-woo was getting ready for work, wearing wrinkled pants and a shirt he had worn twice already that week. He was brushing his teeth when he heard the noise outside. It sounded like thunder but deeper, and it did not stop. He looked out his window and dropped his toothbrush. A spacecraft was landing in the parking lot of his apartment building. It was not a normal spacecraft. It was black like obsidian, smooth like water frozen in mid-flow. It made no sound as it touched the ground, but the air around it seemed to shimmer and bend. People were running and screaming. Car alarms went off. Someone was filming with their phone. A grandmother was hitting the spacecraft with her umbrella, yelling at it to move because it had crushed her parking spot. The ship's door opened. A woman stepped out. No, not a woman. Something that looked like a woman but was clearly not human. Her skin was pale like moonlight. Her hair was long and silver, flowing behind her like silk. Her eyes were the color of fresh blood. She wore dark clothes that seemed to absorb all light around her. She was beautiful in the way that a storm is beautiful, or a knife, or a frozen mountain. She looked at the crowd of confused humans. She spoke in perfect Korean. "I have come to answer the proposal. Where is the one called Park Ti-woo?" The crowd went silent. Everyone looked at each other. Who was Park Ti-woo? Up in his apartment, Ti-woo choked on his toothpaste. He was standing in his underwear, toothbrush hanging from his mouth, watching an alien goddess ask for him by name. This had to be a dream. This had to be some kind of joke. Maybe he was still drunk. His phone rang. It was his sister, Choi Hana. "Ti-woo," she said, her voice shaking with something between fear and laughter. "Why is there a vampire spaceship in your parking lot asking for you?" "I don't know," Ti-woo said honestly. "What did you do?" "I don't know." "Well, she's coming up to your building. I'm watching the news. The whole country is watching. Oh my God, she's so pretty. Oh my God, she just scared a reporter by hissing at him. Ti-woo, what is happening?" There was a knock on his door. Not a normal knock, a polite formal knock, 3 times evenly spaced. Ti-woo looked at his messy apartment. There were clothes on the floor. empty food containers on the table, a pile of unwashed dishes in the sink. On the wall, there was a poster of his favorite video game character. Another knock, still polite, still patient. Ti-Woo put on pants. He put on a slightly cleaner shirt. He took a deep breath and opened the door. The alien woman stood there. Up close, she was even more terrifying and beautiful. She was tall, almost as tall as him. Her eyes studied him like he was an interesting insect. "Park Ti-Woo?" she asked. "Yes." She reached into her coat and pulled out a scroll. An actual scroll, made of something that looked like black leather and silver ink. She unrolled it and began to read. "By the laws of the Crimson Dominion, by the ancient codes of the Blood Eternal, and by the sacred tradition of the proposal rite, I, Velina of House Crimson, seventh daughter of Empress Moritha the Undying, do hereby accept your proposal of marriage." Ti-Woo's brain stopped working. "I what?" Velina lowered the scroll and looked at him with those red eyes. "3 nights ago, you broadcast a marriage proposal into the void. You asked if anyone in the universe wished to marry you. I have come to accept." That was a joke. I was drunk. I was just yelling at the sky." Velina tilted her head slightly. "A joke." "Yes, a joke. I didn't mean it. Among my people, a proposal spoken with true emotion and broadcast into the stars is legally binding. Our sensors detected sincerity in your words, the loneliness, the desperation, the genuine desire for companionship." She paused. It was surprisingly loud. Ti-Woo leaned against his doorframe because his legs were not working properly. "You came from space because I yelled while drunk." "Yes." "To marry me." "Yes." "But you don't know me. I'm nobody. I'm just a regular guy who works too much and can't get a girlfriend." Velina stepped past him into his apartment. She looked around at the mess with an expression that might have been horror or fascination. "I know enough, and I have my own reasons for accepting your proposal." She turned back to him. "I need to be engaged to someone. You need someone to marry you. This arrangement benefits us both." She held out the scroll toward him. At the bottom was a line for his signature, written in blood-red ink. "Sign here and we begin the engagement period. 1 year, during which we will determine compatibility. If successful, we proceed to the blood wedding. If not, we part ways with no obligations." Ti-Woo looked at the scroll. He looked at the alien vampire woman standing in his messy apartment. He looked at his life, empty and lonely and going nowhere. His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. "Son, the news says an alien princess wants to marry you. Call me immediately." Ti-Woo closed his eyes. "Can I at least have some coffee first?" Velina considered this request seriously. "Acceptable, I will wait." And so, on a Tuesday morning, in a small apartment in Seoul, Park Ti-Woo made coffee for an alien vampire princess who had crossed the stars to answer his drunken cry for love. He had no idea what he was getting into. But for the first time in a very long time, his life was not boring. The coffee was instant. Ti-Woo had nothing better. He handed the cup to Velina and watched as she stared at it like it might attack her. "This is coffee?" she asked. "Instant coffee, it's all I have." She took a small sip. Her face showed nothing, but she put the cup down and did not touch it again. "We need to discuss the terms of our engagement," she said. She sat on his couch, somehow making his cheap furniture look like a throne. "You have questions. Ask them." Ti-Woo had about 1,000 questions. He started with the most important one. "Why me? Really, you're a princess from space. I'm nobody." Velina was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, less formal, almost tired. "I am the 7th daughter of the Empress. In the Crimson Dominion, that means I am useful only for political marriage. My mother has arranged for me to wed Lord Chaos, a vampire lord who has lived for 2,000 years. He is cruel. He is cold. He collects wives like other beings collect art, and he discards them just as easily. She looked at her pale hands. I have been running from this marriage for 300 years, but the law of the Dominion is absolute. I cannot refuse a marriage arranged by the Empress, unless I am already engaged to someone else. Understanding hit Ti-Wu like a truck. You're using me to escape your arranged marriage. Yes. So you don't actually want to marry me. I need to appear engaged. The engagement must seem real to satisfy Dominion law. After 1 year, we can claim incompatibility and separate. You will be free, and I will have bought myself more time. Ti-Wu rubbed his face with both hands. This was insane. His life had become a drama show. And what if I say no? Velina's eyes met his. There was something in them that might have been fear. Then Lord Chaos will come for me. And when he learns that you made a proposal to his intended bride, he will likely kill you. It is not personal. It is simply our way. We remove obstacles. Ti-Wu felt cold. So my choices are, pretend to be engaged to an alien vampire princess, or die. Essentially, yes. That's not really a choice. I know I am sorry, and she sounded like she meant it. I did not expect to find sincerity in your words. I was scanning Earth transmissions looking for any excuse, any way out. And then I heard you. Your loneliness, your honesty, it was beautiful in its own way. Ti-Wu did not know what to say. He had never been called beautiful before, especially not for being lonely and drunk. His doorbell rang. Then it rang again. Then someone started banging on the door. Ti-Wu opened the door at Seung-gi. Ti-Wu opened the door, and his best friend Kwon Seung-gi burst in. He was a thin man with messy hair and wild eyes. He ran a podcast about conspiracy theories and alien sightings. He had been waiting his whole life for this moment. I knew it, Seung-gi shouted. I knew aliens were real, I knew they were among us, and now one is in your apartment. He turned to Velina and bowed deeply. Welcome to Earth, beautiful space princess. I have so many questions. Velina looked at Ti-Wu. This is your friend. Unfortunately, yes. He seems energetic. He's always like this. Seung-gi was already taking photos and recording videos. My listeners are going to lose their minds. An actual alien in my friend's apartment. This is the biggest story in human history. The door was still open. More people were gathering in the hallway. Neighbors, reporters, government officials in dark suits. One of the officials stepped forward. He showed a badge. Mr. Park Ti-Wu, I am Agent Yu from the Korean Alien Affairs Office. We need you and your guest to come with us immediately. The next 6 hours were a blur. Ti-Wu and Velina were taken to a government building downtown. They were put in separate rooms and asked questions for hours. Ti-Wu told the truth because he was too confused to lie. Yes, he had shouted into the sky. No, he did not expect anyone to answer. Yes, she claimed they were engaged. No, he did not understand alien marriage law. Yes, he knew this was crazy. No, he did not need a mental health evaluation. Eventually, they brought in an alien affairs lawyer. She was a tired woman named Beek Yuri who had clearly dealt with strange cases before, but never anything this strange. Here's the situation, she said, putting a stack of documents on the table. Under the Treaty of First Contact, signed in 2089, marriage proposals between species are recognized by international law if they follow the traditions of either species involved. I didn't know that, Ti-Wu said. Nobody knows that. It's Article 247, Section C, Paragraph 12. It was meant to prevent conflicts, not to trap drunk office workers in alien engagements, she sighed. But the law is the law. Your proposal was broadcast through emotional resonance frequencies. The Crimson Dominion sensors picked it up. Princess Velina responded according to her people's traditions. As far as galactic law is concerned, you two are legally engaged. Ti-Wu put his head on the table. Can I undo it? Can I take it back? You can end the engagement after the 1-year trial period if you both agree you are not compatible, but you cannot simply cancel it now. The Crimson Dominion would see that as an insult, and they have warships. Great, wonderful, amazing. When they finally let him out, Velina was waiting in the hallway. She looked uncomfortable under the fluorescent lights. The government has agreed to allow me to stay on Earth during our engagement period, she said. However, I have nowhere to live. My ship is not designed for long-term habitation. Tiwu knew where this was going. You need to stay with me. It would help maintain the appearance of a genuine engagement. My apartment is tiny, it's messy. The hot water doesn't always work. I have lived in worse. Somehow Tiwu doubted that. But he was tired. He was hungry. He had been awake for almost 20 hours, and this woman, for all her power, looked just as exhausted as he felt. Fine, but we're setting some ground rules. Velina nodded. Acceptable. That night, Velina moved into Tiwu's apartment. She brought one small bag from her ship. Inside were dark clothes, a few books in an alien language, and a silver device she called a blood synthesizer. I do not drink from living beings without permission, she explained. The synthesizer creates artificial blood from basic nutrients. It is not as satisfying, but it prevents incidents. Tiwu was relieved. He had been worried about that. They set up the ground rules. She would sleep during the day. He would work during the day. She would not enter his bedroom without permission. He would not touch her things without permission. They would share the living space peacefully and respectfully. The first night was awkward. Tiwu lay in his bed, unable to sleep, knowing there was an 800-year-old vampire princess on his couch. He could hear her moving around, adjusting to her new environment. Around midnight, he got up to get water. Velina was standing by the window, looking at the city lights. "Why are you awake?" she asked without turning around. "Couldn't sleep, you." "I do not sleep the way humans do. I rest, but my mind remains active." Tiwu stood beside her. The city sparkled below them. "Are you scared?" he asked. She did not answer for a long time. "I have faced armies. I have survived assassination attempts. I have lived through wars that lasted centuries." She paused. "But this is the first time I have tried to live in a small apartment with a human, so yes, I am a little scared." Tiwu laughed. He could not help it. Velina looked at him, confused. "I'm scared too," he admitted. "Everything about this is terrifying, but I guess we're both scared together." Something shifted in Velina's expression, something almost like warmth. "Yes," she said softly, "I suppose we are." They stood there in silence, watching the city lights, two strangers from different worlds trying to figure out how to share a tiny apartment and a fake engagement. It was strange. It was impossible. It was absolutely not how Tiwu had imagined his life going. But somehow, standing there next to her, he did not feel quite as alone as before. 3 weeks passed. Tiwu and Velina fell into a strange routine. Every morning, Tiwu woke up at 6. He would find Velina sitting in the corner of the living room, reading something on a holographic device from her ship. He would say good morning. She would nod. He would make coffee and toast, get dressed, and leave for work. His company did not care that he was engaged to an alien princess. His boss still yelled at him. His coworkers still ignored him. The work was still boring and endless. But now, reporters waited outside his building. People recognized him on the subway. Strangers whispered and pointed. Some people thought he was a hero. Most people thought he was a joke. "Look, it's the guy who was so desperate he had to order a bride from space." Tiwu ignored the comments. He had been ignored his whole life. Being laughed at was not much different. Every evening he came home exhausted. Velina would be awake by then, waiting in the darkness. She had hung thick blackout curtains over all the windows. She had reorganized his kitchen so everything was perfectly aligned. She had thrown away most of his instant food and replaced it with fresh vegetables and meat. "Your diet is destroying your body," she told him one night. "Human lifespans are short enough without you poisoning yourself with processed chemicals." "I don't have time to cook real food," Tiwu said. "Then I will teach you." And she did. Velina, an 800-year-old vampire princess who had never needed to eat human food, taught Tiwu how to cook. She had apparently learned many skills over the centuries out of boredom. She knew 17 languages, could play 12 musical instruments, and could prepare meals from dozens of cultures. She was also a terrible teacher, completely unable to understand why he struggled. "You simply heat the pan and add the vegetables in the correct order. Why is this difficult?" "Because I've never done this before." "You have had 28 years to learn." "I was busy." "Doing what?" "Working, sleeping, being lonely." Velina went quiet at that. She watched him struggle with the pan for a moment, then gently took the spatula from his hand. "Let me show you again. Watch carefully." Her voice was softer now. Something had shifted. During those 3 weeks, Velina watched Tiwu closely. She had expected humans to be simple creatures, short-lived, weak, ruled by emotion, but Tiwu confused her. He worked 14 hours some days. His boss treated him like dirt. His projects were taken by others and given no credit. He came home tired and sad and defeated. But every morning he got up again. He went back to the same job, the same mistreatment, the same invisible life. "Why?" Velina asked one night. "Why do you keep going to that place? They do not appreciate you." Tiwu shrugged. "It's my job. I need money to pay rent, to eat, to live." "But surely there are other jobs, better jobs." "Sure, but getting those jobs takes time, takes connections, takes luck," he sighed. "And honestly, I'm too tired most days to look for something new. It's easier to just keep going." Velina did not understand. In her world, if something was broken, you fixed it or destroyed it. You did not simply endure it for years. But Tiwu endured. That was what humans did. One evening, Tiwu cut his hand while cooking. It was a small cut, but it bled freely. Before he could reach for a bandage, Velina was at his side. Her nostrils flared. Her eyes darkened. "Your blood," she whispered. Tiwu froze. "Is this going to be a problem?" Velina closed her eyes. She was controlling herself with visible effort. When she opened them again, they were normal. "No, but I could smell something in your blood. Emotions leave traces that we can sense." She paused. "Your blood smells like exhaustion, like loneliness, but also like warmth, kindness, hope." "That's weird." "I know." "Can you always smell my emotions?" "Only when you bleed, or when your emotions are very strong." She looked away. "It is considered rude to comment on such things. I apologize." But Tiwu was curious now. "What else can you smell? Tell me about your world." And for the first time, Velina talked about herself. She told him about the Crimson Dominion, a civilization of vampires that spanned 100 star systems. She told him about her mother, the Empress, who was cold and calculating and had never hugged her children. She told him about her 6 siblings, all of them competing for power, none of them friends. "We do not have families the way humans do," she said. "We have alliances, arrangements, political bonds. I have never experienced what you call love." Tiwu did not know what to say. His own family was small and sometimes annoying, but they cared about each other. "That sounds lonely," he finally said. Velina smiled sadly. "It is. I have lived for 800 years and I have never felt truly wanted, only useful." Tiwu understood that feeling more than he expected. A few days later, it was Chuseok, the Korean Harvest Festival. Tiwu's mother called and demanded that he come home for the family gathering, and he had to bring his fiancée. "I can't bring her," Tiwu said into the phone. "She's an alien vampire. She can't eat normal food." Nonsense, his mother said. She's family now, she comes. There was no arguing with his mother. The drive to his hometown took 3 hours. Velina sat in the passenger seat, watching the countryside pass by. She had never seen Earth outside of Seoul. The mountains and fields seemed to fascinate her. It is beautiful, she admitted. Your planet, I did not expect beauty. What did you expect? Chaos, noise, humans destroying everything. She paused. That is what the other species say about your kind. They're not wrong, Tiwu said, but we have good parts too. His mother's house was small and old, filled with the smell of cooking food. His entire extended family was there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, his grandmother, and his sister Hana, who had been making fun of him nonstop since this whole thing started. Everyone stared when Velina walked in. She looked completely out of place. Pale skin, silver hair, dark clothes, standing in a traditional Korean house surrounded by holiday decorations. Tiwoo's mother approached her. She was a short woman with strong arms and stronger opinions. She looked Velina up and down. Then she grabbed Velina's hands. You are too skinny, she announced. Come eat, we have plenty of food. Velina blinked. I do not eat human food. Nonsense, everyone eats my cooking, sit. Before Velina could protest, she was pushed into a chair and a plate of food was placed in front of her. Dumplings, rice cakes, vegetables, meat. More food than she had seen in one place in centuries. The family gathered around the table. They asked Velina questions in a mix of Korean and broken English. They laughed at Tiwoo. They argued about politics. They told embarrassing stories from his childhood. Velina sat in the middle of it all, completely overwhelmed. At one point, Tiwoo's grandmother, who was 93 and did not care about anything, patted Velina's cheek. Pretty girl, she said. Good cheekbones, take care of my grandson, he forgets to eat. Velina nodded slowly. I will try. After dinner, Tiwoo found Velina standing outside in the garden. The moon was bright. She was looking up at the stars. Are you okay? He asked. Velina did not answer right away. When she turned to face him, her eyes were wet. Your family, she said, her voice breaking. They do not know me. I am a stranger, an alien, a vampire, but they fed me. They included me. Your grandmother touched my face. That's just how they are. It's normal. It is not normal. Velina shook her head. In 800 years, no one has ever treated me like that, like I belonged, like I was wanted for no reason other than being there. Tiwoo did not know what to do. He had never seen her emotional before. That's what family is supposed to be, he said quietly. You take care of each other, even strangers. Velina wiped her eyes. She looked embarrassed by her tears. How do you survive? She asked. Your lives are so short, your bodies are so fragile. The universe is cold and endless and does not care about you. How do you keep going? Tiwoo thought about it. I don't know, he admitted. We just do. What else is there? You get knocked down, you get up. Things hurt, you keep moving. It's not brave or special, it's just life. Velina stared at him for a long moment. That is the most human thing I have ever heard, she said, and somehow it is also the most beautiful. They stood together in the moonlight, an office worker and a vampire princess, both of them finally understanding something about each other. They were not so different after all. 2 months after Velina arrived, the sky turned red. Tiwoo was at work when it happened. The office lights flickered. People rushed to the windows. Outside, massive warships were descending through the clouds. They were blood red, covered in sharp edges and dark symbols. They blocked out the sun. His phone buzzed with emergency alerts. Then it buzzed with a message from Velina. He is here, I am sorry. Stay away from the apartment. Tiwoo did not stay away, he ran. By the time he reached his apartment building, the streets were chaos. People were fleeing in all directions. Military helicopters flew overhead. And in the parking lot where Velina's ship had landed months ago, a new ship now stood. It was 3 times larger, covered in spikes and skulls. A vampire lord stepped out. Lord Caius was tall and terrifying. His skin was pure white, his eyes burning orange, his smile full of sharp teeth. He wore armor made of black metal and carried a sword that seemed to drink the light around it. Velina stood facing him. She looked small compared to him, but she did not back down. "Princess," Caius said, his voice echoing across the parking lot, "you have made a fool of me. You fled to this primitive world and engaged yourself to a monkey. Did you think I would simply accept this insult?" "My engagement is legal under Dominion law," Velina replied. "You have no claim on me." Caius laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Dominion law, you dare lecture me about law?" He gestured at the chaos around them. "I have brought my fleet. I have the blessing of the Empress herself. Your little game is over. You will come with me or this planet will burn." Ti-Wu pushed through the crowd. He did not know what he was doing. He just knew he had to reach her. "Velina." She turned. Her eyes went wide with horror. "Ti-Wu, no, stay back." But it was too late. Caius had seen him. The vampire lord moved faster than anything Ti-Wu had ever seen. One moment he was by his ship. The next he was in front of Ti-Wu, grabbing him by the throat and lifting him off the ground. "So this is the monkey who stole my bride," Caius said, examining Ti-Wu like a curiosity. "Pathetic, weak, mortal. What could you possibly offer that I cannot?" Ti-Wu could not breathe. Black spots appeared in his vision. "Put him down," Velina shouted. Caius dropped Ti-Wu to the ground. He gasped for air, his throat burning. "Very well," Caius said. "Let us settle this properly by the ancient rites, a blood duel." Velina went pale. "No. The terms are simple. I challenge this human for your hand. We fight. The winner takes you. The loser dies." Caius smiled at Ti-Wu. "What do you say, monkey? Will you fight for your bride? Or will you admit you are nothing but a coward who hides behind her skirts?" Ti-Wu was still on the ground, coughing, his neck bruised. His whole body was shaking. This creature was a monster, 2,000 years old, had killed thousands, had powers beyond imagination. And Ti-Wu was a tired office worker who could barely cook. "Don't," Velina whispered. She kneeled beside him, her hands on his shoulders. "Please, just refuse. Let me go with him. You will survive." "And you," Ti-Wu asked, "what happens to you?" She did not answer. She did not need to. He could see it in her eyes, a lifetime of cruelty, of being used and discarded, of living without hope. He thought about the past 2 months, the late nights talking, the cooking lessons, the way she had cried at his mother's house because someone had simply been kind to her. He thought about his whole life, always invisible, always passed over, always told he was not enough. He was tired of being told he was nothing. Ti-Wu stood up. His legs were shaking, but he stood. "I accept." The words shocked everyone. Velina, Caius, the watching crowd, the news cameras broadcasting live to the world. "Ti-Wu, no." Velina grabbed his arm. "You will die." "Maybe," he said, "probably, but I'm not going to let him take you without a fight." Caius laughed with genuine delight. "Wonderful, a human with spirit. I have not fought something so amusing in centuries. Very well, the duel begins at midnight. No weapons, no armor, just survival. The arena will be my ship's combat platform, broadcast to the entire galaxy." He leaned close to Ti-Wu. "Prepare yourself, monkey. Tonight you become entertainment." The next few hours were a blur. Government officials tried to stop the duel. Military forces surrounded the area. None of it mattered. Dominion law superseded Earth law in matters of interspecies marriage, and Caius had made the challenge formally. Ti-Wu sat in his apartment, staring at the wall. He was going to die. He knew that. There was no way he could defeat a vampire lord. Velina sat beside him. She had not stopped crying. "Why?" she asked. Why would you do this? We barely know each other. This engagement is fake. You owe me nothing. Tiwu thought about it. Because you deserved better than this, he finally said. Your whole life people have used you. Nobody has ever fought for you. Maybe I can't win. Maybe I'm going to get killed, but at least someone tried. Velina stared at him. Something shifted in her expression. Something deep and old and powerful. You are the strangest human I have ever met, she whispered. Yeah, I get that a lot. At midnight, Tiwu stood on the combat platform of Chaos's ship. The platform floated in the air above Seoul, visible to millions. Cameras from 100 species broadcast the event across the galaxy. A human was fighting a vampire lord. Nobody had seen anything like this before. Chaos stood on the opposite side, looking amused. Any last words, monkey? Tiwu was terrified. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. Every instinct told him to run. But he remembered every time he had been knocked down, every failure, every rejection, every moment when he should have given up but didn't. He raised his fists. Let's do this. The duel was not fair. It was not close. It was brutal. Chaos moved like lightning. His first blow broke two of Tiwu's ribs. The second shattered his arm. The third sent him flying across the platform, crashing into the barrier. Tiwu tasted blood. His vision blurred. Every breath was agony. But he got up. Chaos looked surprised. Still standing, impressive but pointless. He attacked again. More bones broke. More blood flowed. Tiwu could not land a single hit, could barely see, could barely move. But every time he fell, he got back up. The crowd was silent. Even Chaos stopped smiling. Why? The vampire lord demanded. Why do you keep rising? You cannot win. You must know this. Just stay down. Tiwu spat blood on the ground. Because that's what we do, he managed. Humans, we don't win because we're the strongest. We don't win because we're the smartest. We win because we're too stupid to quit. He charged again. Chaos caught him easily, lifting him by the throat once more. But this time, Tiwu did something unexpected. He bit Chaos. He sank his teeth into the vampire lord's arm, breaking the skin, drawing blood. The moment human blood touched vampire blood, something strange happened. Tiwu's blood flowed into Chaos, and with it came everything humans carried in their blood. Emotions. 800 years of loneliness, 28 years of rejection, the despair of being invisible, the hope of finding someone who cared, love for his family, fear of failure, the stubborn refusal to give up. All of it crashed into Chaos at once. The vampire lord screamed. He dropped Tiwu and staggered backward, clutching his head. What is this? Make it stop. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. His ancient mind could not process the flood of human feeling. It was too much, too raw, too intense. Tiwu stood over him, broken and bloody but still standing. That's humanity, he said. Every single day, all those feelings, all that pain, and we just keep going. Chaos collapsed completely, unconscious, defeated by the sheer weight of human emotion. The galaxy went silent. And then slowly, the crowd began to cheer. A human had defeated a 2,000-year-old vampire lord, not through strength, not through power, but through the one thing humans had that nobody else understood. The ability to feel everything, all the time, and still get up the next morning. Tiwu looked at the stars above him. He smiled through broken teeth. Then he collapsed. The last thing he heard was Velina screaming his name. Tiwu floated in darkness for a long time. Sometimes he heard voices, his mother crying, his sister shouting at doctors, Seunggi praying, and always Velina's voice, soft and steady, reading something to him in her language. He dreamed of stars and blood and falling forever. When he finally opened his eyes, he was in a hospital room, white walls, beeping machines, Sunlight through the windows, his body was wrapped in bandages and casts. Velina sat in a chair beside his bed. She looked different, smaller somehow, more human. Her eyes were red, but not from her nature, from crying. "You're awake," she said, her voice cracked. "How long?" Tiwu managed. 3 days. Your injuries were severe. 17 broken bones, internal bleeding. The doctors said you should have died." She paused. "They do not understand how you survived." Tiwu tried to smile. It hurt. "Too stupid to die, remember." Velina did not laugh. She took his hand gently, careful of the tubes and bandages. "I have not left this room," she said. "I could not. Every time I closed my eyes I saw you falling, saw chaos hurting you because of me." Tears fell down her pale cheeks. "You almost died because of me." "Hey," Tiwu squeezed her hand weakly. "I chose to fight, my choice, my stupid human choice. It was the bravest thing I have ever seen." "Or the dumbest?" "Perhaps both." They looked at each other. Something had changed between them. The fake engagement, the arrangement of convenience, had become something real. Tiwu could feel it. He could see it in her eyes. "What happened to Chaos?" he asked. Velina's expression darkened. "He withdrew in disgrace. The blood duel was broadcast across the galaxy. A human defeated him, not through strength but through through what you are. He could not face the shame. He took his fleet and fled. And the Empress, your mother, she has summoned me to the throne world, to explain myself, to answer for my actions." Tiwu felt cold despite the warm room. "Are you in trouble?" "I do not know." She saw the broadcast as well. The entire galaxy saw it. A human stood against an ancient vampire lord and did not break. That has never happened before. Velina looked at their joined hands. I think she is curious." 1 week later, Velina left for the Crimson Dominion. Tiwu was still recovering, unable to travel. He watched her ship rise into the sky from his hospital window. He did not know if she would come back. 3 weeks passed. Tiwu healed slowly. His bones mended. His strength returned. But he spent most of his time staring at the stars, wondering if he had imagined everything. Then one night, a familiar black ship appeared in the sky. Velina returned. She walked into his hospital room wearing different clothes. Finer, more regal, but her eyes were the same. "The Empress has made her decision," she said. Tiwu sat up, ignoring the pain. "And she asked me why I chose a human, why I risked everything, why I stayed by your side in this hospital for 3 days without food or rest." Velina paused. "I told her the truth, that you were the first person in 800 years to fight for me, to see me as something more than a tool or a prize, to treat me like I mattered." "What did she say?" Velina's lips curved into a small smile. "She said that perhaps she has misunderstood humans. She granted her blessing for our engagement, officially, permanently, not because of law or politics or strategy, because I asked her to." Tiwu's heart was pounding. "So we're really engaged now, for real?" Velina moved closer. She sat on the edge of his bed, close enough to touch. "I did not come back just for a blessing," she said softly. "I came back because I chose to, because I want to be here, with you." She leaned down and pressed her cold lips to his forehead. "I choose you, Park Tiwu, not because I must, because I want to." 1 year later. Tiwu and Velina lived together in a small apartment in Seoul. It was not the same apartment as before. This one was nicer. Tiwu had quit his old job and now worked as an interspecies relations consultant for the government. The pay was better. The hours were better. The title sounded fancy, but mostly he just explained human things to confused aliens. Velina still struggled with daylight. She still complained about instant coffee. She still organized everything in perfect lines. But every evening she greeted him at the door. Every night they talked until he fell asleep. Every morning he woke up knowing she was there. They bickered constantly, about the thermostat, about what counted as dinner, about his messy habits and her rigid routines. But they also laughed, they learned, they grew. One year after the day Tiwu shouted at the sky, he stood on a rooftop again, the same rooftop where everything began. Velina joined him, wrapped in a blanket despite not feeling cold. The sky was full of stars and alien ships, just like before, but everything was different now. "Any regrets?" she asked. Tiwu thought about his old life, lonely, empty, going nowhere. He thought about everything that had happened, the chaos, the fear, the pain, the broken bones and the sleepless nights. He thought about Velina standing beside him now, about the warmth in her cold heart, about the way she looked at him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe. "Only one," he said. Velina looked at him, worried. "I wish I had shouted louder." She stared at him, then she laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine and beautiful. "You are impossible," she said. "You chose me. I know, I have excellent taste in impossible men." She leaned against him, and he put his arm around her. They watched the stars together, an office worker and a vampire princess, two lonely souls who had found each other across the vastness of space. Somewhere out there, Tiwu knew, other species were watching Earth more closely now. The story of the drunken proposal had spread across the galaxy. Humans, they whispered, were strange creatures, small and weak and short-lived, but also brave, also stubborn, also capable of a love so intense that it could overwhelm even ancient vampires. More ships were visiting Earth. More aliens were curious about these strange, emotional creatures who refused to give up. The universe was watching. And humanity, as always, kept surprising everyone. Tiwu smiled and pulled Velina closer. "So," he said, "what do you want to do for dinner?" Velina considered the question seriously. "Something you cook, with the vegetables, the way I taught you. You criticized my cooking last time. I was helping you improve. You said it tasted like sadness and failure. And yet you are still alive. See, my methods work." Tiwu laughed. He could not help it. This was his life now. A centuries-old vampire princess insulting his cooking while standing on a rooftop in Seoul. Reporters waiting outside. The galaxy watching. His mother calling every week to ask about grandchildren and how exactly that worked when one partner was an immortal vampire. It was strange. It was impossible. It was nothing like he had imagined. But for the first time in his life, Park Tiwu was not alone. And that was enough. The stars shone above them, endless and beautiful. And somewhere in the universe, a lonely voice was probably shouting into the void right now, hoping someone would answer. Maybe Tiwu thought someone would. After all, the universe was full of surprises. He had learned that the hard way. And he would not change a single thing.